While afterwards, it was common for market traders and street vendors to wear this kind of upmarket clothing in order to try and appear respectable. The music halls of the United Kingdom and the vaudeville theatres of the United States spotted this habit and used it in their repertoire. It wasn't Chaplin, as many wrongly assume, who started the trend by appearing in this garb on the film. He was simply following on in a rich tradition that had stemmed from a theatrical background in much the same way as Stan Laurel did. In order for the audience to identify with their characters, Stan and Ollie never played anything other than ordinary people in ordinary professions, making ordinary decisions. It's the way they portrayed it that created something extraordinary. At a time of Great Depression in the economic climate, to play the underdog was to have the majority of the audience automatically on your side. This was something both Chaplin and Stan Laurel understood, being as both of them came from a rigidly reworked feudal system in England that branded them as working class. The advent of sound in motion pictures caused a huge shift in popularity for many stars of the day. Chaplin himself, the Grand Master, never truly adjusted, and his star began to fade and diminish as he steadfastly refused to embrace the new medium. Luckily, Stan and Ollie's voices matched their physical appearance to perfection.
The prisoners have been found guilty.
Their attitude towards each other translated into some classic dialogue that rivaled any of their physical antics.
There's a nice pickle we're in.
At the height of their popularity, Stan and Ollie were churning out film after film, a new release nearly every other month. But at what cost? The high point in their professional lives coincided with many complications and a great deal of unhappiness in both of their home lives. In 1930, Lois Laurel gave birth prematurely to a son, Stanley Robert Jefferson, who only lived for a mere 9 days. Stan found solace in the arms of a long-term mistress called Alice Ardell. Ollie, on the other hand, had to deal with Myrtle Hardy's long and painful fight with the bottle. Her alcoholic addiction got so bad that in 1931 she was admitted to the Rosemead Lodge Sanatorium under the pretense of a nervous breakdown. Ollie found solace playing golf and gambling, but he also, like Stan, ended up in the arms of his own long-term mistress, Viola Morse. It's a popular notion that behind the painted face of the clown there lie tears of sadness. This does seem to be the case with most comedians. Their ability to make thousands of people happy never works when trying to make their own lives contented.
I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, Ollie. I didn't mean to be so dispolite.
In 1932, Stan and Ollie's first and only Oscar together was claimed when they won the Best Short Subject section of the Academy Awards with The Music Box. Also managed to complete a whirlwind publicity tour of Great Britain, in which they discovered the immense love and affection that was lavished upon them away from the USA. Neither of them had really realised how popular they'd become as a worldwide phenomenon, and it opened their eyes to their own potential. Again, happiness was tempered by sadness as Stan Laurel divorced his wife Lois in 1935. He'd already met and married Virginia Ruth Rogers in an unlawful ceremony, showing that Stan, like his movie persona, was oblivious to rules, regulations, and the structure of everyday society. He married her again a little later, but continued his long-term affair with Alice Ardell, so, in retaliation, Virginia Ruth Laurel sued Stan for divorce. Then, whilst he was being sued for divorce, May Laurel, back from the wilderness and obviously running out of money, reappeared to sue Stan for property rights. She stated that a common-law wife, although not legally married, was entitled to just as much as any other ex-wife. To make matters worse, Ollie was being sued by Myrtle Hardy for divorce and had to counter-sue by showing the truth of the matter, namely that his wife was a serious alcoholic. Stan's court affairs were eventually settled in 1936 and he was granted a divorce. Ollie was granted a divorce the following year. But it wasn't to end there. A single Stan was not a happy Stan, and he immediately fell for the dubious charms of a notorious Hollywood gold digger called Vera Ivanov-Shuvalova, better known as Ilyana, who claimed to be a Russian countess, but could never actually prove whether she was. In haste, Stan tried to marry his Russian bride before he was legally divorced from Virginia Ruth, and in an example of his love life repeating itself, had to remarry Miss Shuvalova after the divorce had been granted. He then decided to marry her once more in a traditional Russian ceremony, in case his new bride hadn't understood what was going on in the first two times. It's hardly surprising that after the bells stopped ringing for this marriage, Stan and Ilyana stepped into the marital ring for one short round of fighting and arguing before divorcing in 1939. What is surprising in hindsight is that two genuine classic Laurel and Hardy films emerged from this period of strife. Sons of the Desert came first, showing the pair both married to dominant, overpowering mother figures rather than loving, caring wives. This was released just around the time that both of the boys' marriages were floundering. Way Out West was the second, with our heroes appearing wifeless and living a life on the open road. And it could well have been something they both would have wished for in this time of extreme marital disharmony. It's interesting to note that Stan and Ollie are almost prepubescent in their attitude towards their on-screen wives, a total role reversal of their appetites off-screen. They're also never portrayed as being happily married and are forever trying to keep secrets from and avoid being around their on-screen spouses. Perhaps this stems from Stan's writing drawing influences from his and Ollie's past. Stan had known nothing but domineering female figures from an early age, being punished by his strict grandmother for any innocent trouble he got into. Ollie had a mother from the deep south who not only had to raise 5 children without a husband, but also managed a thriving hotel business. She once horsewhipped a tattooist for putting a maple leaf on Ollie's forearm when he was 14 years old. It's therefore hardly surprising that their choice of on-screen wives were always ready to do battle with these comic innocents. In The Flying Deuces, the first picture they made on loan from Hal Roach in 1939, Stan, who rewrote the script, includes a very pointed reference to his marriage troubles at the time, and also plays on Ollie's real-life fondness for betting on horses.
1, 2. Ollie.
What?
I just thought of something. Listen, you remember once you were telling me that when we passed away we'd come back on this earth in some other form? Like a bird or a dog or a horse or something?
Oh, you mean reincarnation?
Yeah, that's it. Well, now that we're going to go, what would you like to be when you come back?
I don't know. I've never given it much thought. I like horses. I guess I'd like to come back as a horse.
Huh.
What would you like to be when you come back?
Oh, I'd rather come back as myself. I always got along swell with me.
You can't come back as yourself. Now come on and stop wasting my time. Are you ready?
Goodbye, Ollie.
Goodbye.
Stan had left the Hal Roach Studios by the end of 1939, but Ollie's contract was to run until 1940. Stan wanted to renegotiate a joint contract to offer them more freedom in